Alright, welcome back to the fastest growing MMA prediction and reaction channel on YouTube. Don't look that up. We have already had a look at the prelims for this Saturday's card, the vegetables of this meal if you will. So now it's time to get into the meat and potatoes. This is what a fight night should look like after 7 or 8 bags of absolute moldy dog shit in a row. So let's embrace this one, shall we? 6 great fights to get into here, particularly at the end of the card. The last 3 are really good. I'll also give my overview of suggested picks for the card at the very end, including the prelims, so have a look out for this. As always, like and subscribe, leave a comment. You are legends, every single one of you. Okay, the first fight takes place at light heavyweight between Vitor Petrino and Anton. I thought this was a misprint. The Pleasure Man, Turkalj. I kind of want to pick this man just for his name, but let's do our due diligence here. This one is a pick'em in the odds, with Petrino opening as a favourite at the beginning of the week, and the odds shifting to evens as people are obviously starting to throw money on the Swede. Now, Petrino has no losses as a pro, and won during a brief amateur career by decision. He's coming off catching a few bodies in his last few, some of which have come in the later rounds, which is always a good sign for me. I watched a few of his earlier fights at Max, AFT, and UAE Warriors, and he has really improved over the years as a striker. He's patient, he has the ability to knock guys out, he mixes his strikes well and lays nice traps. Now, Turkalj is not as accomplished as a striker, and seems more interested in grinding guys out. I watched a few of his fights at Brave, and he is very susceptible to leaving his chin out in the open, which really concerns me. He's also coming off a dominant loss to Almeida, which to be fair was a short notice heavyweight bout, and he came in very light in that one. Almeida's also a monster. Based on what I've seen, and as much as I want to pick Loverboy or whatever his name is, I have to side with Petrino. I think his takedown defense is good enough, and though a lot of money has come in on the Swede, which is a little bit suspicious, Petrino looks more potentially dominant. It's a tricky fight, but I'm siding with Petrino. Alright, now I'm tempted to do the unthinkable and bet against 2 Nurmagomedovs in one evening. Saeed is coming off a win against Jakub Romanov, who I actually picked to win and is a really, really good contender. And he was actually beating Nurmagomedov in that fight until Nurmagomedov managed to pull out a ninja choke out of his arsehole. Saeed is a decent striker, but again, his grappling is actually fucking horrendous. I often find this is overlooked with Dagestanis, with the more casual fans assuming they're all like Khabib, really good wrestlers taking guys down. But a majority of these men are fantastic once it gets to the mat, but are pretty inept at taking it there, and usually have to rely on cardio to wear guys down and get it there, and Saeed fits that bill to a T. Martinez will have the advantage in the striking and is somebody that I really like. He did beat Cub Swanson in his last bout, who is a great fighter but totally washed now, and he tends to go to decisions more often than not, which is making me a bit more wary about him. My pick here is basically based on the disparity between where the fight takes place. I think Martinez is a better striker by a clear margin, but I think Nurmagomedov is way better if it gets to the mat, so I think he simply has more ways to win. I think Martinez wins the first round by piecing up the Russian, and then as the fight wears on, Saeed breaks him down, wears him down, takes him down, grinds on him, and finds a way to get it to the ground after several failed takedown attempts. I do think this is a great matchup and dangerous for both men, but I'm going to favour Saeed on this one. Okay, now this fight stands out on the main card just because it doesn't belong here. This should be buried on the prelims with Grant and Asuncao in this spot instead. I don't know who built this card and made this decision. It's ludicrous to me. I think they're both kind of middle carders and won't get anywhere near the rankings, but fine, it's here. We do the best we can with it. I'm going to cut to the chase. I'm picking Ramos just because I think Lingo does have the slight edge in the stand-up, but Ramos does have a decent ability to clinch and drag the fight to the mat, and I think he adopts this strategy here. I feel like a broken record saying this, but it's just when there's a disparity between 2 fighters in striking and one guy can clearly have the advantage on the mat, it's just logical to pick that guy, and that's what I'm going with here. I'm also in favor of guys that enter into amateur tournaments during their time off between fights, and Ramos has examples of this scattered across his entire record. He's always doing grappling fights at amateur level, and this commitment always stands out to me. And while he doesn't stand out to me as an actual prospect, I think he's a grafter and that he will outwork Lingo in this one. There's not enough value in the odds to play this one. I think minus 350 is ridiculous. I don't think Ramos is outstanding, but I think this one going the distance is a very good shout. I'm taking Ramos, but I'd leave this alone if I were you. Alright, here we go. Now we're talking. Now, this fight was on a horrible card a few weeks ago and was cancelled at the last minute, literally during the card, due to Krylov having a case of the uncontrollable shits. So, while that made an already terrible card almost unwatchable, it's making a good card here very good. So for me, it's all worked out. Originally, I picked Krylov in this one the first time out because I just think he has more weapons than Spann, and I slightly am biased here because I think Spann's a bit of a wet wipe who expects us to believe that he only started training for fights one fight ago into a 30-fight career. Honestly though, the reason I feel more confident is for two primary reasons. Spann is a massive light heavyweight and has struggled with the weight before, so the fact he's cutting down twice in a fortnight does not sound great for him. I also think Krylov is much better on the ground, and Spann's advantage on the feet again is not as broad. More simple MMA math in play here. I'm taking Krylov to survive the fight in the first round and then choke this chicken in the second round late. I don't know why I'm putting it that way. Anyway, I'm taking Krylov by finish, and what a great feature fight this is. It looked silly as a main event, but as a feature fight, fantastic. Looking forward to seeing it finally. Alright, everyone is picking Romanov here, who is a very decent favourite, and I can see the wisdom in this one. Romanov's grappling and takedown ability is insane. He has three arm neck chokes on his resume, which, believe me, are exceptionally rare. And this outline his ability to smother and outpower his opponents on the ground. His stand-up does look a little bit sloppy and goofy at times, but for a low-level heavyweight, and that is what he is, it's not the worst I've seen, and it does pose some threat. If you measure that up against Volkov, who in his fight before last was made to look like a total amateur against Tom Aspinall, who is very good, he did bounce back though with an excellent TKO win against Rosenstruik, who is a pure kickboxer, so it may not be as relevant here. This one is risky, and I've heard people commenting that Romanov was at a disadvantage in his last fight, gas tank-wise, due to the altitude. I think he fought in Utah. But this man has had issues blowing himself out early in most of his fights I've seen him in, so I don't know where people are getting that from. I've picked Romanov pretty much every single time, and I've sat and watched very nervously as he's almost blown winning positions by gassing out. He does have a decent chin, which again makes me wary because most of Volkov's threat is going to come on the feet. I'm going to take Volkov though on this one. Romanov has faced horrible strikers in the UFC, and I think Volkov is going to give him a shock. I think he's going to pap the chin, and Romanov's not going to know what he's dealing with. I think Romanov will have the best of the first round. I think it will remain as a striking bout for the first couple of minutes. I think Romanov will take him down, and Volkov will survive out the round. For a big man, Volkov has a very impressive gas tank, and I think in the second, he lays on the volume and knocks King Kong the fuck out. Alright, this will surprise nobody who knows me. I'm picking Petryan. Now, normally I base my picks purely on style matchups, and I will get to that, don't get me wrong. Some of you will have noticed me referring to Merab in rather disparaging ways a number of times in my videos, and I feel pretty justified in doing that. I've referred to him as a goblin, a cuck, a boring troll, and I've never really given any context for why. So fuck it, here it is. Let's address his fighting style first. This man fights like a fucking pussy. He pushes opponents up the cage and does literally fuck all. I've talked at length about how I hate fighters that just lay on their opponents, and he is the champion of this style. He doesn't just lay. He either pushes people up against the cage and does nothing, or gets them down and lays on them and does nothing. He doesn't make submission attempts. He doesn't do ground and pound. It is horrible to watch. He also refuses to fight Aljo, who's his gym partner, and basically just cucks him, looking at the belt from afar and pushing away other contenders from his little man crush, which I would accept if he did it in an exciting way, but he doesn't. He's the kind of style of fighter that the new scoring criteria was literally designed to stamp out, and I hope this happens here. He also ruined Jose Aldo's send-off as well, and that should have been more dignified, and it should have ended on the Brazil card. So yeah, just fuck this little goblin. Now on the other side, you have Petryan, who is one of the most exciting, dominant fighters in a Shark Tank of a division. He has elite striking, elite grappling, and amazing defense. And he's a guy that puts on relentless pace for 5 rounds at a high level, has an extremely high fight IQ, and is just so exciting to watch. He has very few weaknesses. I hope Yan fucking destroys him, or at least forces the dickhead to actually engage in a fight. I'm taking Yan to win by brutal KO, and I'm just hoping to wish it into existence. It might be more out of hope than expectation. If Merab wins, he'll be let loose to get rid of more great prospects, and I have a very bad feeling that if he wins this, he's going to get O'Malley next, and we just can't have that. So yeah, please, Yan, get it done. Alright, I didn't do this in the prelim card, but I'm going to give an overview here of my plays for the entire card. Now, the safer ones, again, I say JJ Aldridge, money line, looks great. Dumas, I think, is very good value on the money line. I think Bautista gets a finish over Gennady. I think Saeed Nurmagomedov, I don't see him winning by finish because Martinez is tough, but I can see him grinding out a decision win, so a money line on that doesn't look bad. Yan on the money line, decent odds. I'm hoping it will be a TKO. If you fancy taking a little bit of a risk on that, bump it up to a TKO, you'll get really good odds. And I think Krylov and Spann ends in a finish, so I'd take the under 2.5 on that. Now, as far as long shots go, Carlston Harris by finish against Nurmagomedov. He hasn't been finished in his career, but Harris is very good, very underrated. It could happen. Krylov by sub is also a good one. I think you can get something like plus 1,500 on that, which is insane considering how good he is on the ground. Grant by TKO, I think, is a very decent shout. He's a diverse, exciting striker and has every chance of catching him. Bursky, while I didn't show much confidence in picking him, if he is going to win, it's likely to be by TKO. Again, Petrino on the money line. I just think he's busier. I think he's the better fighter. And I'm fairly confident he'll win the fight regardless of where it goes. So, pretty confident on the money line. And then as a long shot, Volkov by money line. He's quite a big underdog on that one, so that does qualify as a long shot. Alright, thanks once again to everyone. I'm noticing the subscribers are slowly creeping up, which I've got to tell you is really fantastic. I didn't expect to make this much progress in such a short space of time. You know, the channel's only been going for less than a month, so to get above 50 subscribers at this stage, it might sound so small to everyone, but to me it's way above my expectations at this point, so I'm utterly delighted. I'm planning on doing a couple of shorts this week if I have time. I want to address the Jones issue at heavyweight, so I'll probably throw up a few shorts on that. And yeah, I will be back on Saturday night. I'll see you all soon.